Chapter 11, Functional Organization of the Nervous System. For the rest of the semester, literally all we're going to be talking about is the nervous system. Now, kind of the cool thing about Chapter 11 is if you got through Chapter 9, Chapter 11 is more of the same. It's pretty much the same information presented a little bit differently. So if you understood Chapter 9, Chapter 11 is going to be a breeze. So, outline of the chapter is normal. The functions of the nervous system, the functions. Okay, the first three functions of the nervous system, sensory input, integration, and the control of muscles and glands. This is actually very similar to something else that we've already discussed. When we discussed in Chapter 1, the parts of a reflex arc, we talked about the fact that it had a receptor, it had a control center, and it had an effector. Well, technically, when we're talking about the first functions of the nervous system, we're actually talking about the same parts and pieces. Sensory input. Sensory input is basically monitoring numerous internal and external stimuli. Some things we're conscious of, other things we're not. When we talked about it originally, I talked about a baby monitor. A baby monitor just tells you what's going on, but doesn't do anything about it. This is basically sensory input. I'm in pain, something's touching me, my pH of my blood is too high, my blood pressure is too high, my blood pressure is too low. I'm monitoring internal and external stimuli. Some things we are conscious of. We know when we're in pain. This morning I woke up and my left ankle hurts like nobody's business. Why? I don't know. It just does. So I am aware of that. So as I'm walking around today, sorry, washing machine. As I'm walking around today, I'm being very, very tender with it because it hurts. I'm completely aware of that. Now, if my blood pH is off, I have no idea, but my body does. And my body will actually take steps to change how I'm breathing in order to help me to compensate for that change in blood pH. So, if I were to put this in here somewhere, I would put it right here, okay? So, sensory input. Monitoring internal and external. Ooh, that's a weird X, sorry. External stimuli. Okay? Now, the second thing here, the second function here. Integration. Processing sensory input and initiating responses. It can be immediate, it can be stored, or it can be ignored. Your brain does this. Think about how many types of information you have coming at you right now in the room that you're in. Are your kids playing in the background? Is there a TV on in the background? Am I talking? Are you looking at the screen? Are you looking at your kids? Are you listening to the fan going? Is the air conditioning going? Are there birds chirping outside? There's a lot of information that we have really learned how to ignore, right? We ignore quite a bit of the information that's going on around us because it's not essential. It's not important for us to listen to. Now, immediate response. Everybody in the room knows that if you hear a kid crying, there are different cries, right? There's the cry of I'm frustrated, but there's also the cry of I'm freaking out or I'm hurt. I don't have any children. I'm not going to lie. I don't, but I have a lot of friends who do. And of course I have nieces. And during that time frame that they were growing up, because they're in their 20s now, but during that time frame when they were growing up, if they would start crying, I could tell one noise from another. Did it need an immediate response if I was in the middle of something, or could I finish what I was doing and then go check and see? When your kid starts crying and it's that, oh my gosh, I've hurt myself cry, you need an immediate response, right? You need this right here, this immediate response. So if it's a My Lego isn't working the right way. You can ignore that, yes? The other thing that you can do, you can store a memory. So I got a text from Walgreens last night, fairly late, saying that my prescription was ready. I wasn't going to drop everything and go to Walgreens at 9 o'clock at night. It wasn't going to happen. So what did I do? Well, I made a memory. Today at some point, I need to go to Walgreens and I need to go pick up my prescription. But did I need to drop everything and do it right now? No. Instead, I stored it as a memory. So we all do that. So integration is up here, okay? So just like this was sensory input, integration, okay? So what is it? Processing sensory input and initiating responses. So processing sensory input and initiating responses. Now, what would those responses be? What are our options? Well, there's immediate action. I just stepped on a nail. I need to move my foot. That's an immediate action. There's making a memory. I got a text from Walgreens. I've got to go and get my prescription at some point. Or ignore it. I can hear my refrigerator outside in the patio humming. Oh my gosh! So what? Ignore it. It's not important right now. Now finally, the third function here. So moving on to our third function. Control of muscles and glands. Skeletal muscles and some smooth muscles contract only when they are given a command to. Most of our skeletal muscles are controlled by our nervous system. We don't wake up in the middle of the night to find ourselves doing stuff that we didn't know we were doing. And I know some people are going, what about sleepwalking? Sleepwalking isn't a normal function. Sleepwalking is abnormal. So that's something that is very different than, let's say, I wake up in the middle of the night to find myself making a brisket. Yeah, no, you don't normally do that. You decide you are going to make a brisket. You have to send all of the information to your muscles to take the actions to make that brisket. Some smooth muscle is controlled by your nervous system. When you get the kukui feeling like something is, standing behind you and your hair stands on end, that's actually your nervous system, your fight or flight system going, hey, something kukui is there, and your hair stands on end. Some smooth and cardiac muscles are actually auto-rhythmic, meaning self, because auto means self. In other words, I can take a heart out of a person and put it on the table, and it'll beat for about a minute without a brain telling it anything. But the catch is my brain can change how my heart is beating, how fast it's beating, how slow it's beating. For example, you get scared, your heart speeds up, right? That's part of your nervous system, your fight or flight system going, hey, something scary just happened, okay? So control of muscles and glands in this thing is over here at the effector. So this is control of muscles and glands. Okay? One of the things that we talked about when we talked about the reflex arc's parts in general was the control center can't go and do anything. So in the example, it was, mom or dad was at the sink washing their hands. And since they're at the sink washing their hands, they can't go and give baby their pacifier. So they send big brother or big sister to go and put the pacifier in the baby's mouth. Well, your brain can't leave your skull and go move your foot if you're stepping on a nail. Your brain has to give signals to the muscles in your leg to pick up your foot. So the effector is the one that takes the action. action dictated by the control center. Okay? So those are the first 3 of the functions. Literally, if you can remember the reflex arc, you know 3 of the functions of your nervous system right away. Now, homeostasis. Homeostasis, it can stimulate or inhibit the body's activities to maintain homeostasis. So don't forget, homeostasis is a set point suitable to support life. Set point suitable to support life. This is keeping you living. And when we saw this in chapter 1, it kind of looked like a graph. I think we had temperature, and there was kind of this one line that was, perfect, 98.6. But then we had kind of this blue box that was around that. And in that box, we were safe. We were okay in that box. It was when we got out of that box, below or above it, that things started going wrong. Well, your nervous system is part of monitoring that level. And when things are going wrong, it sends feedback to try and fix it. Can it always do it? No, sometimes there's nothing it can do. But the fact that your nervous system is monitoring means I can watch and I can see. And when I get away from homeostasis too much, I can again send signals to the things that can do something and hopefully get me back into that window, into this window here to keep me alive. So again, this is part of our nervous system. This is part of our monitoring system. So this is the 4th function of our, this is the 4th function of our nervous system. Now, 5th function, the kind of really, really cool function, mental activity, consciousness, thinking, memory, emotions. The fact that I can tell you, close your eyes and picture the face of the person that you love most in the whole world, and you can do that. The fact that I can tell you, tell me about your favorite birthday, and you can recall that memory and tell me about that day. That's thinking and memory. If I were to tell you, okay, I want you to picture yourself standing in the doorway of your bedroom. Now, picture yourself walking to where your socks are. Where are they? Are they in a drawer? Are they in a closet? Are they in a box in the closet? And I want you to get one pair of socks. You can picture that in your brain. You can walk over and you can get that pair of socks. That's mental activity. That's your nervous system. The fact that you love the color black, hate the color pink. The fact that you cry at cheesy movies. Or maybe the fact that you don't cry at cheesy movies. These are all mental activities. This right here, number 5, is the reason why I think the nervous system is one of the coolest systems that we have. Because these are things that we do more than any other animal on the planet. We make plans. We know history. We write down history. We understand the concept of history. We know that, I would love to say, right now all you're thinking about is A and P and that's it. That's not the way it works. Even I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking, okay, I do need to go to Walgreens at some point. At some point, H-E-B is going to deliver my groceries because of whatever the heck I did to my ankle. I'm thinking I need to empty the dishwasher. I'm thinking that I need to make sure that I give the cats their canned food for the evening. I'm thinking I need to clean out the litter box. I also have a lecture that I need to prepare for nutrition. Plus, I need to prepare the food journal assignment that I've been working. I mean, there's tons of stuff going on in my mind. It's not just one thing. And everybody is like that. Everybody. It's not just me. But again, our nervous system gives us the capacity to have mental activity that is far beyond any animal on the planet, which is really, really cool. Okay. So those are the 5 functions of the nervous system, the functions of the nervous system. All right. So moving on. The divisions of the nervous system. Okay, so the nervous system itself has 2 primary divisions, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. And actually, most of the time I draw this on the board. Let's keep for now. I draw this on the board, so hello. Okay. So I'm going to add a slide and kind of draw everything out. Okay. Where is it? There. So the nervous system, I wish it would just keep the color that I started with, has 2 primary divisions. We've got the central nervous system, and NS just means nervous system, and we have the peripheral nervous system. So what does peripheral mean? Peripheral means the sides, right? Central nervous system, okay, has 2 primary organs, the brain and the spinal cord, okay? Nope. Okay, so what is it? It's the major site for processing information, initiating responses, and integrating mental processes. So, if we were to say organs, this is the brain and the spinal cord. Okay? So, looking at the picture, brain, and the spinal cord, this thing here in the middle. Okay? So brain and spinal cord. It's the major site for processing information, initiating responses, and integrating mental processes. Okay, so function. Function. Processing information. Processing information. Integrating responses. Integrating responses. Hello. I'm sorry, initiating responses, my bad. Initiating responses and integrating mental processes. Okay, now I'm going to go back for a second. I want to show you something here. If I were going to say the central nervous system were anywhere in this figure, it's right here. This is the central nervous system. If you look at the functions, it's the same functions as what we have here. Processing information, initiating responses, integrating mental processes. It's the same thing, okay? Now, if you are not the brain and the spinal cord, if you're any of this business that you see out here, then you are peripheral nervous system, okay? So for my organs here, for my organs, organs, I'm going to say spinal nerves and peripheral nerves. Wrong word. Cranial nerves. which is not spelled correctly. Cranial nerves. Okay, peripheral means sides. Think peripheral vision, right? That's your side vision. Anything that is not brain and spinal cord, doesn't matter what it is, it's automatically going to fit into this category. It's automatically going to be part of our peripheral nervous system. So, peripheral nervous system has two divisions to it. Okay? We have the sensory division and we have the motor division. Now, if I were to ask you for the function of the peripheral nervous system, technically, it's the functions of the sensory and motor division of the nervous system, because that's what this peripheral nervous system is actually doing. So the sensory division brings action potentials into the central nervous system. Meaning, it's incoming information. Okay? So again, if I go back over here to this drawing, the information is going from here up to my central nervous system, right? So this is going to be my sensory division. Bringing information into the central nervous system. So again, we've got that same, it's building on this, and we will build on this pretty much for the rest of the chapter. So we've got the central nervous system, we've got the peripheral nervous system, right? We've got those two major parts and pieces to it. Now, sensory. That's the one we just talked about. It conducts action potentials from outside in your body, okay, from outside up to your central nervous system. Now, I want you to note action potentials. Remember, we talked about action potentials in chapter 9. It's the same thing. It's an electrical signal. It's the same thing we talked about. Now, the motor division. Motor division conducts action potentials from my central nervous system out to my body. So when my central nervous system is sending information out to my body, usually it's to get a muscle to move or to get a gland to secrete. So the motor division, whoops, wrong direction, sorry. The motor division, remember, this brings, sensory division brings action potentials into the central nervous system. This carries action potentials out of the central nervous system. So again, if we go back over here, here's my central nervous system here, and this is going out into the body. So this is my motor division. Carrying action potentials, APs, from the central nervous system out into the body. So I have one half, whoa, I hit laser pointer, computer, why do you hate me? I have one half here that's bringing in information, And then I have another half over here taking information out. So I've got incoming, I've got outgoing. Okay, so I've got central nervous system, I've got peripheral nervous system, and my peripheral on the sides has incoming and it has outgoing. Okay, so again, motor. Oh, afferent and efferent. Afferent is just another way of saying sensory. I always think of afferent as arriving. It's arriving at the central nervous system, therefore it's incoming. Efferent, which is another way of saying motor, is exiting, because it's exiting your brain and going out into your body. So your motor division actually has two other divisions, the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. So motor division. I have the somatic nervous system and I have the autonomic nervous system. So somatic, whenever you hear somatic, two things should pop into your head, okay? One, I'm aware of it. Okay, somatic means I know this is happening. Somatic also means it's voluntary. I control it. So the somatic nervous system controls the voluntary movement of skeletal muscle. Whoa. Skeletal muscle. I don't wake up in the middle of the night to find myself making myself a brisket. I don't wake up in the middle of the night to find myself cleaning out my litter boxes. I don't wake up in the middle of the night to find myself driving down the highway. These are all voluntarily controlled. I'm conscious and I'm aware of these movements. Somatic is voluntary control. Auto, remember, auto means self, right? So when it comes to the autonomic nervous system, this controls, the involuntary movements of smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and glands. I will say it till the day I die, if I could control my smooth muscle, I would be a lot thinner. Also, if I could control my cardiac movement, if I could control how fast my heart was beating, I would look a lot cooler at the gym instead of looking like I'm dying. Okay? So, somatic controls voluntary skeletal muscle. Autonomic controls involuntary cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and glands. Now, the autonomic nervous system also has 3 divisions. Okay? We've got the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, and the enteric. So autonomic, we've got sympathetic, we've got parasympathetic, and we've got enteric, the nervous systems. Sympathetic is also known as fight or flight. Parasympathetic is known as rest and digest, if you want cutesy names. Okay? Sympathetic is most active during times of activity. I'll say during exercise. Whether that is I'm running away from a bear or I go to the gym. Okay? Rest and digest is most active at rest and vegetative functions. Now, what do I mean by that? When your body is repairing, when your body is making ATP, when your body, let's say I go to the gym and I work out really, really hard, there are things that happen when I do that. I get little micro tears in my muscles. I mean, not to the point that I'm injured, but to the point that my body does have to make little repairs here and there. Now, the enteric nervous system, it controls your digestive tract. Now, why is it important that it's here? So, for the sake of argument, let's say there is a mountain lion in my backyard. At the time there's a mountain lion in my backyard, do you think that my stomach cares about digesting the breakfast I had this morning? No. In fact, I try as hard as I can to shut down as much as possible that isn't essential for me to survive the mountain lion in my backyard. My digestive system basically gets as shut down as it can possibly be because it's not important right now. My urinary system, it's not important to make urine right now. There is a mountain lion in my backyard. So I have to basically shut that down too. So when sympathetic takes over, sympathetic is an off switch for my enteric nervous system. It shuts it down. Not important right now. You're secondary. Whereas if I'm in rest and digest and my parasympathetic is on, then my enteric is also on, because my enteric is rest and digest. So enteric is included kind of in this level of organization because technically my sympathetic and parasympathetic are the on and off switch. Sympathetic being off, parasympathetic being on. So sympathetic is most active during physical activity, fight or flight. Parasympathetic, it regulates resting or vegetative functions, also known as rest and digest. Enteric, it's a plexus within the walls of the GI tract. Plexus, fancy word. It's basically a webbed network. That's what a plexus is. It's a very fancy way of saying a network of nerves, kind of like a network of wires, okay? It's part of the ANS, like I said, because there is extreme influence on the enteric nervous system by both the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So what I just drew out in that previous slide is basically this, the divisions, the I guess concept map of those divisions. The difference is that I actually input what each thing did, okay?